Welcome back. It's David McGillivray here with the first episode of Little Did You Know, the chat show, but this time it's just a one-man show. I'm telling you what I'm doing here and about my torment down the years with various censors. In the 1990s, I mentioned that I wrote a series of articles describing the history of the British sex film, and these articles were later found by a publisher who wanted to put them into a book, and this is what happened. The book was published in 1992, I think. It was called Doing Rude Things, and I think it did rather well. It was the first time, these films had been talked about seriously in a book, and it sold out. And accordingly, a new edition came out not so long ago. I think it was about 3 years ago, and on the occasion of the new edition coming out, I announced on Facebook that my old book Doing Rude Things was coming out again, but I made the mistake of showing the cover of the first edition, and this is where I have to be very careful, otherwise I might get censored again. Okay, so this is the cover of the first edition of Doing Rude Things. I put that on Facebook. Underneath my finger is a single nipple, and because of that, I was banned from Facebook. I can't remember how long for. I went into what's known as Facebook jail for publishing that, and again, I was just astounded, and when I was let out of Facebook jail, I told people what had happened. I used another picture of that cover with the offending nipple covered up, and of course all my friends were similarly astounded and said terrible things about Facebook. The odd thing is, you can say what you like on Facebook. You can say that Facebook are the most appalling load of sharks in the world, and you won't get censored. But if you show a nipple, you will. It's another example of why I can't be doing with censorship. What I believe is that it's an all or nothing thing, and what I mean by that is that if you say you're anti-censorship, you cannot say, I'm anti-censorship, but I don't think so-and-so should write about that. In other words, something that personally offends the speaker. You can't say that. It has to be an all or nothing thing. So either you allow everything or you ban everything. And believe me, there are people in the world who do want to ban everything, particularly books, because let it not be forgotten that John Lennon's Assassin was inspired by Catcher in the Rye. However, I believe that there should be no censorship at all, whatever, but I'm not an idiot, Obviously, you can't allow hate speech, and you can't publish anything that encourages somebody to harm another person. No, that's what society, I think, should disallow. But as far as what we read and see and hear is concerned, no, I don't think there should be any censorship at all, and that is what I've always campaigned for. Now, after I'd got into that little spat with Facebook, I thought, well, I must be more careful in future. But little did I know, I was going to be involved in the most high-profile censorship case in my entire career. And this involved a film called Trouser Bar. Now, even to this day, I have to be very careful about what I say about this film. If you want to know the facts, you can Google them. Not now. I mean, wait till the end of the show and then just type in David McGillivray Trouser Bar and it will all come up. I won't tell you the whole story now because it's far too long, but suffice it to say that I made a film called Trouser Bar, which I believed was written several years earlier by a celebrated theatrical knight. And I went to his dead, and I went to his representatives, a trust. Now, I could give you the name of the trust. I am allowed to do that. It reveals the name of the author of Trouser Bar, but I'm not going to do it. You can do it yourself. It's perfectly easy to find, but according to the bits of paper I signed eventually, I'm not allowed to mention this name, and I don't want to get into any more trouble. Thank you very much. I've had enough of it. Anyway, I went to the trust and I thought they'd be delighted to hear about this film written by this person. They weren't delighted at all, and they told me I couldn't make it. They thought it was inappropriate. So I went ahead and made it because that's the way I roll. And this caused an enormous kerfuffle. And the lawyers' letters started arriving. And they were very, very threatening indeed. They said that they intended to prosecute not only me, but everybody involved in the film. So there would have been a lot of people in the dock. They wanted me to hand over all my materials to them, everything that had been shot. And that included outtakes and photos, and I wasn't having any of this. I mean, I was very proud of the film. I didn't want it destroyed. So I said, no, I'm going to hold on to it and just put it on the shelf. I won't show it to anyone. That wasn't good enough either. They were insistent. They told me that without a shadow of a doubt, we were going to court and that I was going to lose. And I got very frightened indeed. It's the nearest I've come to, as I believed, losing everything. But, excuse me one moment, and it's not gin. I may have been unlucky with censorship generally, but I have been very lucky, as I've told you, with lawyers. And I was contacted by somebody who said, I think I ought to represent you, which she did, and pro bono as well. And she started sending some very challenging letters to the trust's lawyers indeed. And as I said at the time, virtually tied them in knots because the trust lawyers didn't really know how to handle this. They'd never come across anything like it before. And they were just clutching at straws. Now, Brian Robinson of the Flair, what was the London Lesbian and Gay Film Festival, wanted to show this film and went ahead and announced it. And the only way we could show the film was to take this knight's name off the credits. So that is why Trouser Bar is now available on DVD on this peccadillo release. I'll just show it there as well so the light's not shining on it. Why not? It's a very good DVD, Boys on Film 15. The reason it's on this DVD credited to a gentleman is that is how we managed to get the film shown at the BFI South Bank. It was a great success there. It then went all around the world. I'd signed all kinds of bits of paper, as I say, so the lawyers acting for the trust could no longer prevent its screening. And I can tell you now that it's currently being developed into a musical. I can't quite believe it myself, but I've seen the script and it's very good. And there's 10 great songs, as I recall. We can't put it on at the moment for obvious reasons, but watch out for Trouser Bar, the musical. I can't wait. So that is basically the situation I find myself in with regard to censorship. I think that probably I'm going to be challenged by this for the rest of my life. I seem to have been fated from a very early age. I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon. But that is the cross I have to bear. All I do know is that I never want to be involved in another court case. Life is too short for that. And as I said in my book, if you're ever faced with a court case, don't get involved. Settle as early as you can. You'll get nothing out of it. My dears, I'm just going to have another look at the clock here, which is just about to beat us. It's been absolutely delightful. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this nonsense. As I say, from now on, I'm going to have a special guest every week, and we're going to be chatting about all and sundry. I'll try not to bring up the subject of censorship again, otherwise it will get tedious. We will be talking about all kinds of things. Just a reminder, however, of the aforementioned Patreon. Now, this is where I think maybe it'll appear again, will it? It'll be added later, I'm sure. If you go to Patreon now, you're going to be rewarded with 15 minutes of very special material indeed. And this came as a surprise to me. I went through my filing cabinet and I realized that I'd had the most extraordinary run-in with the British Board of Film Classification 20 years ago that I had completely forgotten about. And all the paperwork was still there. Just going to show you the merest glimpse there. I'm going to be telling you all about this extraordinary run-in on Patreon. I'll say no more, apart from the fact that I've never spoken about it before, not even in my autobiography. Little did you know, still available on Amazon apparently. So I earnestly urge you to join me on Patreon for that. I don't think you'll be disappointed, but whatever the case, if you don't want to, please, you're not obliged to, but I hope you can join me again at the same time next week for another edition of Little Did You Know. I can assure you that my guest will be absolutely delightful and fascinating. I don't want to talk to any other kind of people, so I hope you can join me then. Until then, this is David McGillivray wishing you goodbye. Thank you so much. See you soon.